Neliana é uma das pioneiras na utilização da tecnologia blockchain. Ela tem um caso super bacana que eles desenvolveram em parceria com a Provenance, de uma peça de lã de alpaca que, através da tecnologia blockchain, eles conseguem rastrear todas as etapas do processo. Então, realmente assim, a gente não tem muitos casos ainda de aplicação dessa tecnologia, mas a gente sabe que é uma tecnologia que veio para ficar e tem tudo para mudar todas as nossas formas de relacionamento de consumo e, portanto, toda a cadeia industrial. Neliana, welcome.
Obrigada. Hi, hello. I'm really sorry I'm going to be doing this keynote in English, but I'm very happy to be here with you in this amazing, beautiful new building that is Casa Firjan. And thank you for the invitation. And yeah, I'm here to talk to you about why I care about transparency and my journey from being a fashion designer, going into the sustainable innovation route, and how transparency has taken me to the world of technology, and how come I'm here to talk to you about blockchain, given the fact I'm not a software engineer or a computer scientist. So my mission here today is to open up your minds on how we could explore new ways, finding solutions for current problems that we have today, looking for new tools towards the 21st century, especially the second quarter that we're moving towards. And yeah, I will try to explain everything as slow and as good as possible. I know the translation is happening, and yeah, thank you so much. So, purpose and transparency drives trust, and trust is one of the biggest issues that we currently face as a human race. Basically, everything that we do is based on trust. Every relationship we build with our ecosystem, including ourselves, our society, and globally, it's all based on trust. As we know, global supply chains, globalization, the world is moving as fast as we don't even understand how fast it's moving. But we need to understand their natural cycles, and these cycles are part of us and a part of our environment, which is the Earth. However, we have some issues on how we are not connecting the dots to support the natural cycles. So this image actually is outside in the exhibition. Invite you to go and see it. And when I saw it, I thought, okay, this is basically how the world runs today. We move commodities, we create products, and then we have economies that are all lying on this linear model. This model that it was conceived from start to end, and we had a lot about that from cradle to cradle. And so how could we change that linear mindset and not think about linear supply chains, linear business models, linear products, and linear economy? There are lots of solutions out there today, and it's almost overwhelming. But the thing is, none of the solutions will solve the problem for us. We need to first identify that problem that aligns with our purpose. My purpose as a fashion designer was to be part of the solution and to identify where I was the most useful. And sometimes you have to just get out of your comfort zone and learn new skills and enter different worlds and understand how you can then connect the dots, how creativity and collaboration are key for us to find solutions together collectively, how sustainable innovation is going to help us move towards using tools that technology are allowing us today, such as AI, IoTs, blockchains, crypto tokens, and how we can connect also the physical with the digital. And when I say this, is that every product as it's made is creating a story, as we just saw with these beautiful sunglasses. how can we connect that story at the moment of purchase? For me, that moment of purchase is so vital. That's when a product realizes its existence. If we put natural capital and natural resources into a product that it won't be sold, it will end up incinerated or in the landfills. So I'm going to talk to you a lot from the perspective of creating products and how to communicate a story, but mainly how can we make sure that that story that you are reading on a label is actually true. And how can we then, after purchase, become part of the solution? We're all consumers here. That is undoubtedly the truth. And whether we are conscious consumers or we are lazy consumers, we need to understand that we have a lot of power. Every time we buy something, we are voting with our wallets. And we have the power to basically change something every day. We choose to buy something in a way or not. So I'm a fashion designer, but I haven't touched a piece of fabric or scissors or a needle in a long time. And this is because I decided that I was not happy with being part of the problem. I was working in the fashion industry. I'm from Venezuela originally. I moved to London to pursue my dreams of becoming the next Carolina Herrera. And I went to fashion school and I enjoyed it. And I entered the workforce and understood that it was not aligned with what I was trained for or where I was directioning my design. Actually, my collection was the first sustainable collection in 2009, back in the day. And that opened up a new whole world of possibilities. And understanding that education was entering that area in fashion. So I left that to understand how my interest for sustainability will link later to transparency. Once I was in the industry and I understood the problem, coming back to what I was saying earlier, that it's very important to understand and identify the problem to find the solution. In fashion, supply chains are extremely complex. For instance, only 1% of textiles worldwide are recycled, and that is 53 million tons only. The rest, the 99%, ends up in landfills or incinerated. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation had released a report last December, and I will share more into that, but it's got really interesting stats on what's the impact of the industry. It's the second most polluting industry in the world after the oil. It's a very low-tech industry, and in my opinion, it needs an upgrade. Fashion is all about trends and newness, but on the back end, it's very old school, it's very old-fashioned. Supply chains are opaque, and that supports modern slavery and child labor. And nobody here really wants to know that your t-shirt was made by a child that was not in school instead. And, well, H&M, for instance, is sitting on top of $4.3 million of unsold clothes. In my opinion, I think this is part of how new generations, especially the millennials, that yes, we're buying and buying and buying, but at the same time, there's an interesting shift happening, especially since 2013 with the Rana Plaza disaster, the factory collapse, and the movement of fashion revolution started as a social movement every 24th of April. And it's just interesting to see how we can start measuring certain indicators, and circular economy is becoming a very important force for us in the industry. So I don't know what you do. Maybe you have no clue about fashion, but we all wear clothes. And I think if we're caring about what we eat and we care about what we put in our skins, the third thing and the third industry will be the textile. That at the end of the day, everything is connected. So yeah, my mission is basically making the invisible visible. And I didn't know where to start. Transparency has always been a resonating word for me. Sustainability is the S word, which is, it has its pros and cons, especially when you're in a meeting room talking with business people. So I chose transparency as a word that can connect and elevate both the social and environmental impact at the same level. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a fashion designer. I used to work for Burberry, Stella McCartney, Pringles Scotland, and then I decided to merge myself into the world of entrepreneurship, and I launched my first label called Ether in 2012, thinking I will change the world. And well, I learned a lot, and this is how you build resilience, by going for it and understanding how actually things work. And then thankfully I was able to go back to school to do my master's in MA Fashion Entrepreneurship and Innovation. I had a scholarship, so that allowed me to go more in depth on what is transparency and what does this mean for fashion, and how is this going to be able to connect meaningful stories, people and places to the consumer at the point of purchase. So I decided to focus on Stella McCartney. There was this Caring Award that it was a new partnership between the Gucci group and my school. And I won. And I thought, okay, I'm not that crazy. I'm going somewhere. And whilst I was researching more on my dissertation, how to connect millennials with positive products, I came across blockchain technology. I was looking for that missing link, because I knew that telling the story of a product is as easy as just building a piece of marketing. But how can we actually know that what we're buying is 100% organic, or it's fair trade? Today we have certifications, and when we read them in the labels, we believe or we don't. And this is again talking about the trust part of how much are we trusting systems that are telling us that we're buying or that we're paying for that service or product is actually true. So I guess I have spent the majority of my last 12 months sharing my journey, because it seems like this is what is my journey towards transparency. Moving from linear to circular is not a straight line. There's no roadmap, and I think we're here all to build it together. But it's important to understand that it's about making the invisible visible. It's about centralized information going decentralized. And this is very, very important for everything else that I'm going to explain later. It's about understanding that limited, finite resources can actually be regenerated, recycled, reused, resold, reclaimed, re-rent, whatever you want. It's about opening up our minds on how we can treat these limited resources, and how fragmented information or organizations, systems can actually be more connected and create a network that is actually going to help the whole ecosystem to thrive. So this is how I see the journey towards transparency. As I mentioned, Ellen MacArthur Foundation has released a report on the new textile economy. And for those of you that haven't heard about Ellen MacArthur Foundation, she was this amazing woman who went through the world on her sailing boat, and she was the fastest person to go around the world in 70 days. And in that journey, she realized how connected everything is and how dependent we are on the planet. And if we don't take care of it, then we're not going to have very happy days. But the point here is how we find solutions, okay? So circular economy is a big topic right now, and I think my intention is to find ways to actually trigger it, and how could technologies help accelerate this. So this is how I see blockchain, as a tool for transparency. Technologies are there, and I don't know how to code, for instance. I know what I know computer-wise, and all that. I know the internet helps me send emails and watch YouTube. But imagine 25 years ago, if I was asking you, what is the internet? Imagine you sending an email to across the world, and you will actually get it on the spot. You will be like, what? Or imagine explaining what social media is. So this is where we're at today. Blockchain is a very new technology, and it's going to empower and it has a great potential for anything that needs to just be trusted and that has a value and a way to transfer this. I always ask the audience, who here has heard about blockchain before today? Great, brilliant. This is not the way it was in 2015. So this is very exciting. I think thanks to the internet, of course, we know more about what new things are happening. And this is how it was born. The white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto, published in 2008. This is just a quick overview of how he published how the first peer-to-peer digital currencies could be transferred, and it gave birth to the Bitcoin. I didn't enter this world through Bitcoin. I entered this world because there was something that had an opportunity to be applied to something that I care about, which is transparency. And during my research and my dissertation, I interviewed my collaborator and friend, Jesse Baker, who's a founder of Provenance, and currently I was working with them, and we are bringing this to the fashion and to other industries. So what you need to know about blockchains is that they are just any database. Just imagine your Excel sheet, and you have columns and rows, and you have information, you have data. But the difference is that this database is immutable. You can't change it. It's not editable. Basically, everything that you input there stays there. It has a timestamp. There's many different ways of explaining it, but just to give you a sense, there are different types of blockchains as well. So one of them is Ethereum, the other one's Bitcoin, Hyperledger, Fabric, and there's many more. But these are the key features that are important to have in mind. It's a decentralized ledger. It's a distributed network of computers that they're all holding the records of the data that is being input by an actor. And this actor can be anonymized, and information is encrypted. This information is also interoperable. It means that information can be shared within different formats. It creates consensus, and that's the thing I really like, that incentivizes transparency by reputation. If you are trusting someone you don't know, that means you are in a trustless network where you are trusting. And by this I mean there's no third party, there's no intermediary who is saying, yes, this transaction is correct. Basically, if we go back to the Bitcoin case, there's no bank. So we're talking again about a decentralized way of sharing and transferring value. And this is really important for, say, proof of authenticity, proof of origin, proof of fair payment. And I think the space of what blockchain is just this much of how much is actually going to be in the next 5-10 years. I like this quote from the CEO of IBM. It's basically where everything that has value, you can use the great features of securities and guarantees that blockchains provides. And I just want to here open up your mind that it's not about understanding how it really works. It's about how could this represent a solution for a current problem that we may have today. I just did a screenshot on blockchain on Portuguese if you wanted to read it. But I think even though you can actually read it technical, it really is about what does that mean for you, for your society, for your career, for your country. And so since I've been in this space since 2015, and I've had to learn a lot about blockchain because it changes every week. There's a lot of amazing and constant engineers making these blockchains better, but now also has represented a different type of hybrids. So we have public blockchains and we have private blockchains. For instance, IBM has created Hyperledger, and that means that they create this decentralized system for companies that need those securities. However, they keep it on private or centralized. There's also consortiums where there's a consensus process controlled by a pre-selected set of permissioned groups. And yeah, the blockchains that are public, such as Ethereum, it can be seen by anybody in the world. So, as I said, I didn't enter this world because I'm a geek and I just happened to step upon it. I was in the mission of trying to make the industry that I chose more fair and transparent. And so case studies for me became my entry level. And I put this quote here because Dr. Vivian Ming was here last week, and she said something that really it totally resonated with me, and technology is not going to solve our problems. We need to find that problem in order for then allowing technology to help us. So the first case study I'm going to show you is provenance, proof of origin, and for sustainable claims, sustainable and ethical claims in the Southeast Asian oceans. And this is where my journey started. I ended up in Indonesia tracking tuna fish. And actually, I took that image when we were there, and I didn't know that that was going to be the first product committed on a blockchain. And this is really important to understand. Blockchains are digital. Cryptocurrencies are digital. How do we match physical and digital is a huge challenge. And basically, the proof here was to work with an NGO with certified fair trade fishermen who will be the proof that they are not modern slavers. That was the main issue to be solved. And so that certification will travel digitally through the network of computers, and also the information of each data point will be inserted through different existing systems. And this is the other very important thing about blockchains. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about using what is already there, existing systems, and collect them and elevate that information and make it more secure, transparent, trustworthy, and shareable. So basically, the whole point is that the consumer will be informed that that fish was actually caught by a fair trade fisherman. Some of the issues that are happening in Southeast Asia is, as you probably may or may not know, is fishermen are being taken into the ocean, being promised work. Yeah, you're going to come back home in 2 weeks' time, and they never come back. So this is where we consumers, we like sushi, for instance. It's how can we be part of the solution as well? How can we demand for more transparency? And yes, legislations and regulations are very important towards this. The second case study I worked for was proof of fair payment. So a group of farmers in Indonesia harvesting coconuts, and Fairfood is an NGO from the Netherlands. They wanted to use blockchain to basically make sure that the premium living income will be met by what they should earn per coconut. And the whole point was to create this digital passport that will travel with each coconut, and every consumer at the point of sale will be able to scan it and know the name of the farmer and have all the information, the timestamps. So all of this is basically the picture of what a blockchain looks like. A blockchain is just a bunch of numbers, okay? So you need to have companies that create softwares that allows this information to flow and travel and to be visualized. And then the third case study was when I decided it was time to come back to fashion and track the first garment on a blockchain. So that's what we did with designer Martin Jarlark, an amazing Danish designer, very committed to transparency and sustainability, and we were like, hey, let's just do this. We believe in this, and little we knew that we were gonna basically come out with this case study for the fashion industry as a reference on how this can actually work. And then that allowed me to understand what are the benefits and also the challenges of this technology. Transparency is not everyone's favorite word. We all like privacy, of course, and I would say transparency is not lack of privacy, but when it comes to understanding that opacity and lack of trust is creating unknown information on where things come from. So here the brand might know the supplier, but the supplier has subcontractors, home workers, and this is where the modern slavery can happen, or child labor. And also, most brands don't know where the raw material of the products come from. Organic cotton, probably yes, but most of the cotton of the world, nobody really knows where it's coming from. And who knows about the farmer? So the transition of linear to circular can be supported by technologies like blockchain that allows everybody to have a voice, every actor to be part of the network and the solution, and create incentives for reputation by becoming transparent and to input that data in real time, so like you as a brand can build more trust in the information you have in your supply chain, in your database, in order to then communicate to us, the consumers, and then we know exactly where we're buying or not. So again, it's like we're going into circles, but it's all connected. So from information sitting in silos that is not interoperable towards a more secure, audible, and shared data layer, it's where we would like to move from centralization towards decentralization. So yeah, this is basically how the part of connecting a physical product looks like with a digital passport. Technology is moving towards how we can do this. So basically, we use an NFC button, which stands for near field communication. And basically, you just scan your button, that's like the care label in your clothing, and then you will be able to see the information of your product that looks like this. So here basically you can see how the British farm of this alpaca supply chain, the knitter, the spinner, the knitter are part of the story, and here on the right-hand side you can see the timestamps of how this product was made, and basically, this is what it looks like to have a product with a verifiable digital passport on a blockchain. You can also see the name of the alpacas that the farmers named them as, James Bond and Othello, which is right cute. So this is the thing, it's about how can we connect the stories, and how can then, after a purchase, you can continue passing that value towards the next consumer, or even the brand, for it to be recycled. So yeah, we basically put the seed on how this could work and how this could trigger new solutions for an industry that very much needs it. There's lots of companies out there today doing amazing, great stuff using blockchain technologies. For instance, Specs 360 are looking at coffee supply chains and how they are mixing technology with machine learning and an AI to make sure that the beans are the right beans, because obviously there's a lot of issues on maybe replacing the physical asset for another one. Consensus is really interesting. They're looking on how blockchain can support the global sustainable, the global development goals. And in Everledger, they're looking at how they can fight the blood diamond market. So we will have a workshop next week on the 14th if you want to know more about how other companies are working with blockchains or how you will see you could use it for your own projects or life. We will share more information about that. But yeah, I basically want to invite you to think about your purpose and what would that mean for your future. And we are here in this amazing space that is allowing us to explore and to deep dive into really what is important for us. And then, yeah, let's build it together. I invite you to join the movement of radical transparency. And a transparent company, we focus on education, innovation, and communication. I'm based in London, Amsterdam, and Barcelona. And hopefully we'll be coming more here. But yeah, please, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much.
Woohoo! Thank you, Neliana. Thank you very much. Well, I'll ask in Portuguese and then I'll translate into English. Sure? Alguém tem pergunta?
A pergunta é simples, é mais em relação a se existe um aumento de custo quanto ao blockchain, independentemente da cadeia, seja na moda ou independente dessas que foram apresentadas. Se existe um incremento de custo no caso.
Ao utilizar blockchain.
Exato.
Yeah, that's a common question. Pilots and proof of concepts are really important to understand what would be the benefits and also the limitations of implementing blockchains in supply chains. When I was talking about interoperability and not reinventing the wheel and not creating a whole new software just for the sake of, it's about reducing those costs and making sure that the information that is valuable that would have or should be on a blockchain is actually stored for it to reduce its costs is really, really important. Blockchain is, imagine the internet 20 years ago, it didn't have the capacity to have us all on mobile phones at once. So how is that going to change towards committing more data in blockchains as that will stay there forever? And also I know there's a lot of debates on the energy that it requires and the cost, as you say. So there are some blockchains that are, yeah, the transaction per node is changing its cost, and there's lots of great people working towards making it more effective, like the Lightning Network, trying to make transactions more quickly.
Mais uma pergunta. Vai lá, Yuri. E aqui, ó. Ah, tem aqui também? Vai lá, depois vai dar tempo de fazer lá atrás também.
Na verdade, eu queria saber como que o blockchain vai certificar que todas essas informações são verdadeiras. Porque, por exemplo, eu também trabalho no mercado de moda. Como que, vamos supor que a empresa ela coloque as informações lá, mas como que o consumidor vai ter certeza de que aquilo é verdadeiro e de que aquelas informações, que aquele produto e aquela matéria-prima realmente está vindo daquele lugar.
Legal.
E se é possível ter também o custo de cada produção, né?
Bacana.
Yeah, that's a very common question as well. So anything that you put on any system today that is centralized, it cannot be trusted anyway. You have to trust the brand or the boss or whoever says it's organic or it's pink. The whole point of blockchains will be that information can be verifiable. So there's a lot, we talk about proof of stake. So how can we actually verify the data quality of what's being inserted in order to then keep that universal source of truth, as we call it. It will be very difficult to convince all these computer networks to lie just for you. And it just creates different levels of securities that we don't have today. So again, the technology is there. It's us that we need to understand that we don't help anybody if we put bad information. So again, going back to the idea of trust and building trust, and how creating incentives for making that data good data, it's important for everybody. Because if you are in a supply chain and you create a consensus, and I know that you told me your cotton was organic, but then we found out it's not, I'm not going to work with you next time. So I think this is where we need to go beyond.
Neliana, we have the last question. I'm sorry, guys, but we're gonna do it in English. So what's your name?
Pedro.
Pedro.
Hi, Neliana. Thanks for the lecture. And I would like to reinforce the question that was made in the way that, what methods do you consider the best ones to really assure that the information you're gathering is true, is trustable? If not, like using IoT, for instance, because blockchain technology and proof of stake, proof of work really works. It's nice, but you can just like make an input which is not true. We can bring people here to work, and part of them are working it's a fair trade and everything, and part it's not, and we can just extract this information. There are other ways to input untrusted information there. So how can we really be sure that this transparency will work in the right way?
Yeah, I think I don't necessarily have the answer to that question, because it means that, as I was saying in the beginning, we need to shift the mindset from working in silos to open, from linear to circular, and that also means from centralized to decentralized. So at the moment, how we can make sure that the information on a blockchain is true is basically by watching how that transaction develops. And real-time tracking is really important, because that's how we can quickly verify and respond to whether the information was wrong or right. In the case of fashion, what I would like to see is how, for instance, multi-stakeholder initiatives can bring companies to understand that if they open up their problems and their challenges and also share common goals, this will be so much more easy to accomplish, and that data will be more reliable.
Obrigado, pessoal. Obrigado, Neliana.
Obrigada.
Palmas, por favor.